Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Starship Troopers. And this is a 1959 science fiction novel from Robert A. Heinlein and focuses on a future where strong military presence leads society in its fight against the bugs, which it's basically this parallel in many ways to Cold War between US and Russia at the time, and focuses on this young man, Johnny, being trained, learning in the classroom, rising among the ranks, and then going into battle to protect humanity against these bugs. And this is a pretty controversial novel at this point because many people describe it as fascist. You can tell from the sequences in the classroom where it's being very much, hey, this is what the author's trying to say, or at least ideas that the author's trying to portray to the audience. And a lot of it's really focusing on reduction of voting and really focusing on military, which people have viewed as fascist, which you have that perspective, and it's hard not to argue with the idea of really this strong military elite society and using that power and authority. And you can tell that the author really had a problem with the times where, there wasn't enough discipline and stuff like that. And that's a big part of this, is that military discipline, and that comes to the forefront. And you see our main character growing and molding into this great soldier, this great military person. And that's the measure of his growth and progress in the novel. And it has really impressive combat sequences, training sequences, and those are definitely highlights of this novel that really made a big impact on science fiction moving forward into the future, because there's a lot of those things we see. Definitely signs of aliens can be seen in this, and all those different kinds of things. Now, you could have your feelings about the political ideologies that are seeping through into the story here. You could also look at it from just a pure, here's a science fiction action novel really focusing on the military, and it's very detailed and well thought out and structured, and you could appreciate it for that. You could also have issues with it because of the messaging of the book, and that's really going to come down to you. And you can definitely tell that this is military first. And military is an essential piece of society. It needs to be focused on, and all these young people will learn everything they need to know from being in the military. And that is a legitimate perspective that this book is portraying. And depending on how you feel about that, that could affect your enjoyment of this book. And I could definitely see a lot of people not enjoying this, especially if you're not into action and war and stuff like that, because that's what this really is. There's not much else. And it's an interesting coming-of-age story in the context of all this. It can be very blunt with those classroom scenes of being these are thoughts that we're trying to portray here. It's right there on the surface, and you can see that. I'm very interested to check out the film, because how they satirized this stuff and made it less of just a straightforward military action book into a film. But in general, I think this book has its merits, but I definitely think it's going to isolate a lot of people based off of its politics. And in the end, you're going to have to decide that for yourself if you want to give it a try. But those are my thoughts on Starship Troopers. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some books. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.